All right, spell anti-disestablishmentarianism. Your word is adrenocorticotrophin. Your word is psychoneuroimmunology. Can you spell honorific abilitudinity? The next word is autothaumaturgist. Can you spell radiometeorograph? The next word is institutionalization. Spell psychophysicotherapeutics. Your word is quadamoditative. Next up, ethnomethodology. Can you spell parallelogrammatic? Next up, arthroeresis. Can you spell floxinosinyhilipilification? Next up, oligonucleotide. Next up, Bogolanfini. All right, spell borborygmus. Your word is capoeira. Spell sequoia. Next up, acquiesce. Next up, utilitarianism. All right, spell infinitesimal. All right, spell subcompartmentalization. Your word is subpoena. Your word is compartmentalization. Your word is dichotomization. Can you spell deoxyribonucleic? Your word is aegis. Your word is incomprehensibility. Spell syzygy. Can you spell sesquipedalian? The next word is capricious. Can you spell hieroglyphics? The next word is Worcestershire. The next word is isthmus. Spell prognostication. Next up, allotransplantation. Can you spell jurisprudence? Next up, fossiliferous. Spell perspicacious. Spell fuchsia. Spell dendrochronology. Spell Buckminster fullerene. Can you spell entrepreneur? Next up, verisimilitude. The next word is quindecasyllabic. Can you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? All right, spell psychoneuroendocrinological. Can you spell gastroenterologist? Your word is honorific abilitudinity. The next word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Spell convolvulaceous. All right, spell bourgeoisification. The next word is polyphyloprogenitive. All right, spell quadrimodotative. The next word is glyceraldehyde. Next up, oligonucleotide. The next word is psychophysicotherapeutics. Can you spell ethnomethodology? Can you spell hypoparathyroidism? Spell anti-disestablishmentarianism. Can you spell radiometeorograph? The next word is psychoneuroendocrinological. Spell gastroenterologist. Spell psychoneuroimmunology. All right, spell autothaumaturgist. The next word is quindecasyllabic. Your word is syzygy. Spell onomatopoeia. Next up, Abakashi. Can you spell supererogatory? All right, spell absquatulate. All right, spell rhinorrhgia. Spell sesquipedalian. Spell perspicacious. Your word is bureaucracy. Your word is quixotry. Can you spell labyrinthine? Next up, portmanteau. Next up, acquiesce. Can you spell antediluvian? The next word is achromatophil. Your word is batrachophobia. Spell subcompartmentalization. Can you spell prestidigitation? The next word is paradigm. Next up, incomprehensibility. Can you spell languid? Next up, contradistinguish. Your word is acetaminophen. Can you spell gubernatorial? The next word is anachronistic. Spell allotransplantation. Spell superferromagnetism. Next up, compartmentalization. Next up, apocryphal. All right, spell borborygmus. Your word is arthroeresis. Your word is anthropomorphization. Spell pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. All right, spell bourgeoisie. All right, spell hippopotamonstrosusquipedaliophobia. Spell adrenocorticotrophin. Next up, deoxyribonucleic. Your word is paraphernalia. Can you spell pulchritudinous? Your word is milieu. Your word is soliloquy. Your word is capoeira. Your word is lepidopterology. Next up, iconoclast. Next up, inchoate. Can you spell acromatophilia? All right, spell isthmus. Can you spell capricious? Your word is susurration. Next up, utilitarianism. The next word is fossiliferous. The next word is quasquicentennial. Spell sequoia. Your word is paroxysm. Spell infundibulum. Spell dendrochronology. Your word is fuchsia. Spell subpoena. The next word is Bogolonfini. All right, spell jurisprudence. The next word is baccalaureate. Your word is infinitesimal. The next word is entrepreneur. Next up, Buckminster Fullerene. The next word is verisimilitude. Can you spell Worcestershire? Can you spell xylotypographic? The next word is parallelogrammatic. Can you spell institutionalization? Spell otorhinolaryngological. Spell floxinocini-hilipilification. Next up, pneumoencephalography. Your word is otorhinolaryngological. Can you spell xylotypographic? Can you spell hypoparathyroidism? Your word is oligonucleotide. The next word is pneumoencephalography. Next up, quindecasyllabic. The next word is hippopotamonstrosusquipedaliophobia. Can you spell psychoneuroimmunology? Next up, convolvulaceous. Can you spell quadrimodotative? Your word is psychoneuroendocrinological. The next word is adrenocorticotrophin. Next up, ethnomethodology. The next word is institutionalization. All right, spell gastroenterologist. The next word is polyphyloprogenitive. Next up, bourgeoisie. Next up, honorific abilitudinity. Next up, glyceraldehyde. All right, spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Your word is autothaumaturgist. All right, spell parallelogrammatic. Can you spell anthropomorphization? Your word is arthroeresis. Spell bourgeoisification. All right, spell pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Can you spell psychophysicotherapeutics? Your word is floxinosinyhilipilification. Next up, anti-disestablishmentarianism. The next word is radiometeorograph. Can you spell pneumoencephalography? The next word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. All right, spell quindicasyllabic. Next up, xylotypographic. Your word is autothaumaturgist. Spell adrenocorticotrophin. All right, spell ethnomethodology. All right, spell hypoparathyroidism. Your word is institutionalization. Next up, honorific abilitudinity. Your word is bourgeoisie. Your word is polyphyloprogenitive. Next up, psychophysicotherapeutics. All right, spell portmanteau. All right, spell gubernatorial. Your word is quixotry. The next word is prognostication. All right, spell onomatopoeia. Can you spell anachronistic? Anachronistic. Can you spell lepidopterology? All right, spell perspicacious. Spell prestidigitation. The next word is paroxysm. Spell supererogatory. The next word is infundibulum. Spell incomprehensibility. Your word is paraphernalia. Next up, entrepreneur. Your word is absquatulate. Your word is milieu. Next up, verisimilitude. Your word is thalassophobia. All right, spell iconoclast. All right, spell utilitarianism. The next word is superferromagnetism. All right, spell neuropsychological. Your word is serendipity. Spell achromatophil. All right, spell capricious. Can you spell rhinorrhgia? Your word is inchoate. The next word is jurisprudence. Can you spell bureaucracy? Next up, gastroenterologist. All right, spell oligonucleotide. Your word is psychoneuroendocrinological. Can you spell pseudo-hypoparathyroidism? All right, spell arthroeresis. Can you spell batrachophobia? Your word is sesquipedalian. All right, spell pusillanimous. Can you spell fuchsia? Spell dichotomization. Next up, abakashi. Can you spell hieroglyphics? Your word is acquiesce. All right, spell compartmentalization. Can you spell susurration? The next word is syzygy. Your word is achromatophilia. Your word is apocryphal. Next up, deoxyribonucleic. All right, spell aegis. Next up, subcompartmentalization. Spell contradistinguish. Spell pulchritudinous. Spell Buckminster fullerene. The next word is languid. All right, spell capoeira. Next up, subpoena. Can you spell antediluvian? Can you spell baccalaureate? Next up, quasquicentennial. All right, spell infinitesimal. Your word is Cyrillic. Can you spell paradigm? The next word is Bogolanfini. All right, spell soliloquy. Can you spell psychoneuroimmunology? All right, spell glyceraldehyde. Can you spell convolvulaceous? Can you spell anti-disestablishmentarianism? Next up, anthropomorphization. The next word is bourgeoisification. All right, spell radiometeorograph. Next up, hippopotamonstrosusquipedaliophobia. Your word is otorhinolaryngological. Next up, quadammodotative. Spell floxinaucinihilipilification. Your word is parallelogrammatic. All right, spell anti-disestablishmentarianism. Your word is institutionalization. Can you spell adrenocorticotrophin? Can you spell bourgeoisification? All right, spell oligonucleotide. Can you spell hypoparathyroidism? All right, spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Next up, radiometeorograph. Your word is psychoneuroimmunology. Psychoneuroimmunology. Your word is gastroenterologist. The next word is pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Your word is parallelogrammatic. Next up, convolvulaceous. Spell xylotypographic. Spell pneumoencephalography. Next up, lepidopterology. Next up, iconoclast. The next word is aegis. Can you spell pulchritudinous? All right, spell capricious. All right, spell jurisprudence. Your word is contradistinguish. Next up, baccalaureate. Your word is anachronistic. The next word is soliloquy. Spell infinitesimal. Next up, prestidigitation. Can you spell sesquipedalian? All right, spell Buckminster Fullerene. Next up, subpoena. Can you spell supererogatory? The next word is serendipity. The next word is apocryphal. The next word is syzygy. Next up, inchoate. The next word is paradigm. The next word is absquatulate. Your word is gubernatorial. Next up, fuchsia. Spell verisimilitude. Your word is portmanteau. Can you spell paroxysm? Your word is achromatophilia. Your word is quixotry. Spell Cyrillic. Your word is psychoneuroendocrinological. Spell glyceraldehyde. Next up, floxinaucinihilapilification. Spell quindicasyllabic. The next word is autothaumaturgist. Spell arthroeresis. All right, spell bourgeoisie. All right, spell polyphyloprogenitive. Your word is psychophysicotherapeutics. Your word is quadammodative. The next word is ethnomethodology. All right, spell anthropomorphization. Your word is honorific abilitudinity. Your word is otorhinolaryngological. Your word is hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. Your word is arthroeresis. Next up, pneumoencephalography. Your word is oligonucleotide. Can you spell floxinaucinihilapilification? Spell institutionalization. Can you spell adrenocorticotrophin? Your word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Spell pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. All right, spell bourgeoisie. All right, spell hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. All right, spell parallelogrammatic. The next word is quadammodative. Can you spell radiometeorograph? Your word is otorhinolaryngological. The next word is honorific abilitudinity. Can you spell gastroenterologist. Can you spell psychoneuroimmunology? The next word is anthropomorphization. The next word is polyphyloprogenitive. All right, spell psychophysicotherapeutics. The next word is bourgeoisification. The next word is glyceraldehyde. Can you spell xylotypographic? All right, spell psychoneuroendocrinological. Next up, quindicasyllabic. Spell convolvulaceous. All right, spell anti-disestablishmentarianism. Spell hypoparathyroidism. Next up, ethnomethodology. Can you spell autothaumaturgist? Your word is autothaumaturgist. Spell quadrimodotative. Next up, adrenocorticotrophin. Your word is bourgeoisification. Your word is anthropomorphization. Can you spell parallelogrammatic? Next up, convolvulaceous. Can you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Can you spell bourgeoisie? The next word is psychophysicotherapeutics. All right, spell floxinaucinihilipilification. Spell institutionalization. Can you spell otorhinolaryngological? All right, spell honorific abilitudinity. Next up, oligonucleotide. The next word is glyceraldehyde. The next word is hippopotamonstrosusquipedaliophobia. The next word is hypoparathyroidism. Your word is psychoneuroimmunology. All right, spell pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Next up, arthroeresis. Spell ethnomethodology. Your word is xylotypographic. Your word is gastroenterologist. Next up, pneumoencephalography. Next up, quindicasyllabic. Next up, psychoneuroendocrinological. All right, spell polyphyloprogenitive. The next word is radiometeorograph. Next up, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Spell autothaumaturgist. Can you spell anti-disestablishmentarianism? Your word is glyceraldehyde. Next up, honorific abilitudinity. Next up, floxinaucini-hilipilification. Your word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. All right, spell psychophysicotheraputics. Can you spell oligonucleotide? All right, spell parallelogrammatic. All right, spell arthroeresis. Spell hippopotamonstrosusquipedaliophobia. Spell institutionalization. All right, spell hypoparathyroidism. Next up, bourgeoisification. All right, spell paradigm. Spell quixotry. Spell Worcestershire. All right, spell prognostication. Your word is perspicacious. The next word is lepidopterology. The next word is quasquicentennial. All right, spell milieu. Next up, labyrinthine. Can you spell entrepreneur? The next word is fuchsia. The next word is dichotomization. The next word is Bogolonfini. The next word is infundibulum. The next word is bureaucracy. The next word is sequoia. Spell iconoclast. Spell neuropsychological. Spell portmanteau. Can you spell incomprehensibility? Can you spell borborygmus? Your word is antediluvian. Spell batrachophobia. Next up, fossiliferous. All right, spell baccalaureate. All right, spell dendrochronology. Can you spell subcompartmentalization? Your word is acromatophilia. All right, spell superferromagnetism. Can you spell capoeira? Spell pneumoencephalography. Spell ethnomethodology. Next up, pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Spell anthropomorphization. Next up, otorhinolaryngological. Spell adrenocorticotrophin. Spell bourgeoisie. Your word is quindicasyllabic. Can you spell radiometeorograph? Can you spell quadrimodotative? Spell convolvulaceous. The next word is psychoneuroimmunology. All right, spell polyphyloprogenitive. All right, spell psychoneuroendocrinological. The next word is gastroenterologist. Can you spell xylotypographic? Can you spell anthropomorphization? Your word is psychoneuroendocrinological. Your word is pneumoencephalography. The next word is autothaumaturgist. Your word is pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. Your word is hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. Your word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Can you spell otorhinolaryngological? Your word is convolvulaceous. Can you spell psychophysicotherapeutics? The next word is xylotypographic. All right, spell oligonucleotide. Spell quadrimodotative. Your word is institutionalization. Spell radiometeorograph. All right, spell arthroeresis. Can you spell parallelogrammatic? Your word is floxinaucinihilipilification. Your word is bourgeoisification. Next up, honorific abilitudinity. The next word is adrenocorticotrophin. Next up, gastroenterologist. The next word is quindicasyllabic. Next up, anti-disestablishmentarianism. All right, spell ethnomethodology. Spell hypoparathyroidism. The next word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. All right, spell pneumoencephalography. Can you spell subpoena? Your word is sequoia. All right, spell infundibulum. The next word is bureaucracy. The next word is dichotomization. Your word is supererogatory. Your word is fossiliferous. Can you spell acromatophil? Can you spell incomprehensibility? The next word is Worcestershire. Next up, entrepreneur. Can you spell quasquicentennial? The next word is contradistinguish. All right, spell prognostication. All right, spell labyrinthine. The next word is allotransplantation. Next up, paroxysm. Next up, lepidopterology. Next up, capricious. Spell apocryphal. Next up, batrachophobia. Spell paraphernalia. Can you spell Buckminster Fullerene? Next up, antediluvian. Spell pusillanimous. Your word is neuropsychological. Can you spell inchoate?